All right, Mr. Toto, I believe we can begin. And again, if anybody is unable to view via YouTube, they will be able to see the recording in just a few minutes. As soon as the meeting ends, I will send that out.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bloom. Welcome everyone to our Tuesday, May 4th Board of Education meeting. At this time, I'll ask for a motion to go into public session.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Maoni?
Yes, I'll do a roll call, please. Mr. Toto,
Here.
Ms. Hoffman,
Here.
Mr. Curcio,
Here.
Ms. Hanson,
Here.
Mr. Leader,
Here.
Dr. Bloom,
Here.
Mr. Bowles,
Here.
Ms. Gallagher,
Here.
Ms. Hennessy.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maoni. Dr. Bloom, Superintendent's report.
Yes. 1 second, I apologize. All right, good evening, everyone. I would like to take a moment to wish our teachers, principals, and assistant principals a very happy Teacher Appreciation Week and happy National Principals Week. So I extend that to you, Mr. Toto, as well as a principal. Although this is the week designated to thank these staff members, we continue to thank them every week for what they have done and continue to do for our students and community. With only 34 days remaining until summer recess, the landscape in New York is quickly changing. We are continuing to monitor guidance coming out of the New York State Department of Health as it relates to schools, and we'll share updates regarding end-of-year events and summer recreation programs as soon as possible. As a reminder, although the CDC has come out with guidance related to the wearing of masks by vaccinated individuals outdoors, masks are still required on school grounds. We understand that this has been a challenging year, and we certainly appreciate everyone's continued cooperation. During the Voice of the Residents section of the meeting this evening, we will be allowing community members to ask questions related to the agenda through the Q&A function. So when submitting a question, you're going to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Please provide your full name for the record along with your question, and then we will read the questions aloud during that section of the meeting and answer the questions. So again, the Q&A function is at the bottom of your Zoom window. It'll say Q&A and has two little kind of voice clouds. This evening, Ms. Hennessy will be presenting the 21-22 budget. As I stated at the last meeting, our district is getting our fair share of meaningful aid and additional funds to support critical initiatives, which will allow us to provide enhanced support that would not have been possible otherwise. Over the years, we have been shortchanged in state aid by New York State, and still we managed to have the lowest per pupil expenditure in the county, which continues again this year. At the same time, we've made it a priority to spend among the highest of anyone in the county on instruction. With that said, we were unable to provide some of the enhanced services that our students will certainly benefit from next year, including math lab support in each building, additional reading and literacy support, and enhanced STEAM and technology initiatives that will provide our students with access to cutting-edge tools and resources and curriculum, just to name a few. I am proud of the work our team has done to make sure that the 21-22 budget reflects an investment in our state aid increases in our students and their futures. And with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Ms. Hennessy. Ms. Hennessy, I just have to make you a co-host, which I am going to do right now. Okay, Ms. Hennessy, you should be a co-host and you should be able to share your screen.
Thank you. Great. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, we'll be presenting the last in our series of budget workshop presentations, and we'll be presenting a three-part budget, which is a state requirement that we present the budget in the three-part format of administrative, program, and capital. Before we get into that, to go over the budget proposal, it's in the amount of $41,497,000. It represents a 1.4% tax levy increase, which is within our allowable levy limit. Therefore, we are not piercing the cap. Our budget proposal represents a 3.3% budget to budget increase. And you can see by the numbers below that there's a large difference in the budget increase and the tax levy increase. The tax levy increase is only $406,000, and that is a result of the additional state aid that Dr. Bloom spoke of. It has been a long time coming, and we are very grateful to finally receive some of the aid that's been withheld from us since 2007. In a little while, we'll be speaking about the different ways in which we propose to reinvest that money back into our children and into our program. The highlights of the budget include that we are once again ranked as the lowest per pupil expenditure in Nassau County, while spending among the most on instruction. The budget proposal maintains all of our current programs, and the additional state aid will be used to enhance our educational program at no additional cost to the taxpayer. We will be able to provide 3 additional positions, and actually new positions, math lab positions, to provide enhanced support in the area of math for our students. In a similar fashion, we'll be adding an additional reading position and literacy position to provide the same level of support in our reading programs, a special education position, additional professional development for our staff, additional technology support. As I think everyone has realized, we've all become much more dependent on technology over this past year, and we need to enhance our level of support for our students and for our families in the community as well. We are proposing to add additional school resource officer positions. The proposal is to add 1 position per school, which would bring us to a total of 2 school resource officers in each building at all times, which allows us to provide ample coverage of both interior and exterior simultaneously. And then lastly, we're proposing to reduce the assigned fund balance. It's somewhat of an abstract concept, but basically each year we pledge fund balance to the budget in order to give back to the taxpayers, in the sense that it lowers the tax levy need. However, if we do not have that money to give back, we would spike the tax levy and harm the taxpayers. Therefore, districts budget for it in order to ensure that we do have it and we don't spike the levy and harm the taxpayers. Unfortunately, it's an inherited problem because once it's budgeted for, it's nearly impossible to reduce or get rid of it without spiking the tax levy, unless you have a year in which you have an unexpected and meaningful revenue increase. And luckily for us, we finally had that type of year. So we are proposing to use a portion of that unexpected and meaningful state aid increase to reduce the assigned fund balance, so that we can fix a problem that was inherited many, many years ago and has been with our district since. We'll use this opportunity to reduce the assigned fund balance and therefore reduce what we are taking from the taxpayers and be able to do this in a fashion that doesn't spike the levy. And then lastly, if you're still with me after that very long-winded explanation, it is extremely important to us that we always maintain a focus on minimizing taxes and on being fiscally responsible. And we do so through appropriately funding budget codes and practicing multi-year financial planning. When we're planning a budget, we do something called zero-based budgeting, which means we start with a blank sheet of paper. We look at every single code, and every single item in a code has to be justified. It's not a simple rollover of a prior year budget where we add a certain percentage on top and just move on. So our administrators are absolutely wonderful at really critiquing every single item and making sure that everything has a justification and a need. And then we look at how those items will impact us not only next year, but for the next 5 years, in order to ensure that we're not making any decisions that could end up spiking the tax levy on our community. Challenges this year include the COVID protocols and the associated costs. As Dr. Bloom also spoke of earlier, we're not quite sure what next year will look like just yet, but we do know there will probably be some COVID-related costs that we similarly faced this year that were unexpected. And we need to have some money in the budget in order to allow for that. Things like PPE, cleaning supplies, additional equipment that's needed to satisfy the requirements have to be included and considered in the budget. Additionally, mandated costs are rising as always. Mandated costs refers to items that are not under our control, such as health insurance, premiums, retirement costs, the operations of facilities costs. We need to continue to address the learning loss that resulted from the COVID closure. And lastly, we are seeing an increase in our homeless population as well. Now, the three-part budget is broken down into the administrative, program, and component. The administrative component of our budget is just over $4 million. Highlights of this include central administration, supervision, which is building level administration, special items such as BOCES. BOCES is a cooperative of all school districts in Nassau County. We use them, we pool together to have better buying power, and we use them to achieve better fiscal results. So we do pay fees associated with joining the BOCES and being part of that cooperative, which then gets us the preferential pricing on goods and services. Program is in the amount of $32,881,271, and this represents all of the expenses associated with running our program for general education and special education. It includes our transportation costs. Community service represents our programs such as ACE and the summer rec program. The capital component totals $4,329,001. It includes all the costs associated with running our facilities, such as operations. It does include a bus purchase, which is an equipment code, the benefits associated with these positions. Debt service is what is known as our bond payments. So we're running down our bonds. We have 1 or 2 years left. So this is the payment of principal and interest. Transfer to special aid is a code that is used to transfer money to help offset the cost of the summer handicap program. And then transfer to capital is the code where money is put so that we can transfer to the capital fund, which is the appropriate fund to use for different building projects and repairs. The total budget proposal is in $41,497,000. The administrative component represents 10.33%. The program component represents 79.24%, and the capital component represents 10.43%. Now on the revenue side, our most significant source of revenue is state aid. And as we've already stated, we do see a meaningful increase in what's known as foundation aid. That's a category of aid that's been withheld from us since 2007. We are not at a fully phased in level yet, which is what you would call it if we had received all that aid back. But we did receive an increase of just over $1 million to help us get there and get on our way. Local revenues are all the other sources of revenues that aren't coming from state aid or the tax levy. They include items such as fees that we charge other districts when we transport their students for them, interest on our bank accounts, the summer recreation and ACE program fees, and then pilots, which is a payment in lieu of taxes. Commercial properties often strike agreements with Nassau County that unfortunately we are not involved in, but we are impacted by. They strike agreements where they're allowed to make these payments in lieu of taxes, which typically represents a tax break for them, and they make the payments in this form rather than through the tax levy. Now we calculate the tax levy by taking the expenditure budget amount, subtracting out all non-tax levy sources of revenue, so that would be state aid and local revenue and the appropriated fund balance that we spoke of earlier. And what's left is the amount of money we need to raise through the tax levy to support our educational program. Our proposed tax levy increase again is 1.4%. That translates into a $60 impact on the average home for the year, or approximately 17 cents per day. So 17 cents per day would allow us to maintain all of our current programs, as well as the added additional enhancements we spoke of earlier using our state aid and money. Now, under the new tax levy law, I still call it new, but it's been here since 2012, the contingency budget rules have changed. We now, if we were to fail our budget vote twice, we would not be allowed to raise our tax levy by a single dollar. which would mean that this current proposal would need to be reduced by approximately $400,000. Examples of possible cuts include all of the new initiatives that we spoke of earlier, as well as the items that you do see on the screen now. We ask that everyone in the community please come out and vote. The vote will take place on Tuesday, May 18th at the John, Polk, and Washington Street schools from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. We'd also like to note that there is additional information regarding both our budget and the voter process on our website. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hennessy. Are there any questions from the board?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Hennessy. I do want to take a moment also, Dr. Bloom, to wish all of our teachers a very happy Teacher Appreciation Week. If ever a time was needed to thank them for all of their hard work in some of the most difficult of times, the last year has definitely been it. So kudos to the great work that's happening in the classrooms on a daily basis while trying to continue to give great instruction and keep our kids safe. So keep up the great work. Board approval is requested of the minutes of the BOCES budget vote and board election meeting of April 20th, 2021.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board approval is requested of the minutes of the Board of Education meeting and pre-budget hearing of April 21st, 2021.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board approval is requested of the recommendations of the Committee on Special Education in the cases as listed.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Board approval is requested on the following cases of the Committee on Preschool Special Education in the following cases as listed.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board approval is requested of the recommendations of the 504 Committee in the following cases as listed.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Board approval is requested of the Treasurer's Cash Reconciliation Report and Cash Flow Statement for the period ending March 21st, 2021.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board approval is requested of the Budget Status Report for the period ending March 31st, 2021.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board approval is requested of the warrant reports for March 2021.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board approval is requested of the appropriation status reports.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Board approval is requested of the trial balance report for the month of March 2021.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board approval is requested of the health and welfare contract for the 2021 school year.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board approval is requested of the following civil service non-probationary appointment as listed.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Board approval is requested of the following permanent per diem substitute teacher as listed.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board approval is requested of the supplemental agreements per education law 2D between the Franklin Square Union Free School District and the following contractors as listed.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board acceptance is requested of the engagement letter from R.S. Abrams for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board approval is requested of the amendment of the following board policies as listed.
Move it.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board acceptance is requested of the engagement letter from Naraki Smith for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board approval is requested of the contract for consultant services between the Franklin Square Union Free School District and FBA of Syosset effective July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022 for services pertaining to the district's flexible spending plan pending council's approval.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Dr. Bloom. Board reports?
We have a collective bargaining agreement. Sorry, Mr. Toto.
Okay.
One more. Board approval is requested of the CBA between the Franklin Square Union Free School District and the Franklin Square Educational Secretaries Association, UPSEU, effective July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right. So now it's time for board reports. Mrs. Hoffman, legislation?
There's nothing really going on in legislation except that the governor's orders keep changing. It's an ever revolving door. So every day or every week, there is something new that has been coming up, new orders for the governor. So we're slowly moving towards normalcy. But, again, with a lot of caution, especially at the school level. So nothing else is going on in Albany. Thanks.
Thank you. Any new business? Sorry, any new business?
No.
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 Dr. Bloom, voice of the resident.
So if someone would like to ask a question, we're going to ask you to write your question in the Q&A section. Again, if you can put your first and last name along with your question, this way we have it for the record. And if we do need to research and answer, we will be able to get back to you. So I do see an anonymous question in the Q&A at this point. Mr. Toto, is it okay to read this question aloud?
Yes, Dr. Bloom.
Okay, great. So how can our local school district distinguish itself from state mandated curriculums or rules? So I think I need a little bit more information from the individual who is asking the question, just in terms of the context. Again, in terms of what we can do versus what we are mandated to do, oftentimes the state will provide us with standards. They will provide us with guides. And then we can take that and we can make it our own and expand on it. And certainly that is the minimum for what we are to do. In terms of rules, sometimes if we're talking about, let's say, the New York State Department of Health rules and regulations, we are required as a school district to follow those rules. Now, sometimes within those rules, there is some flexibility and they will say, this is the minimum that you must do, but if you would like to do more, or they will say, you can do this, but you can also do, a little bit less, but here again is the limit, right? So, masks is the perfect example where the New York State Department of Health, as it stands right now, does not, have any flexibility in terms of masks when students and adults in the building are less than, a certain number of feet, right? So those are things that we have to follow. And then there's other things in those rules that are suggestions that we, take back to our committee and we discuss and we have, conversation about it. And our reentry committee includes board members and administrators, teachers, every bargaining unit in the district, community members, our library, et cetera. So I hope that answers the question, but certainly if the individual who answer it, certainly you can contact my office. I'm happy to have a conversation over the phone. You want to send me an email, I'm happy to answer it via email. Or if you want to just provide a clarifying question or additional questions, I'm happy to answer that as well.
Yeah, I just ask that if there's any of our attendees that are that do have a question, that you please post your first and last name.
Any other questions? I don't see any other questions in the Q&A, Mr. Toto.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bloom. So at this moment, I'd like to encourage all of our residents to go out and vote on May 18th. And I'll take a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Thank
Night,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.